And we're back with part 2 of Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants. Now we do get, Hemingway's an interesting guy. There are moments in this story where you're not sure who is saying what, right? What did you say? I said we could have everything. We can have everything. No, we can't. We can have the whole world. No, we can't. We can go everywhere. You can easily lose track of which person is saying what. And it still works, right? Each of them could be saying the line. Either of them could be saying the line. And Hemingway, he was the ultimate macho guy. You know, he went, if there was a war, he was gonna go cover it. And you know what? He was probably gonna get sucked into fighting in it, even though he was a journalist and shouldn't. But also, like some macho guys, he was also insecure in his masculinity, which is a fine thing. And even though he's considered this, toxic masculinity is a new phrase that people use. Even though Hemingway's a good example of toxic masculinity in a lot of ways, guess what? He's also an early gender bender, gender fluidity. A lot of historians and biographers say that this is because his mother dressed Hemingway up and his sister, who was very close in age, sometimes both as boys, sometimes both as girls. And they did this actually Mom did this for quite a while. He also had a very strong mother, which some people say is, makes a boy feminine. I think that's a bunch of garbage. So we'll leave that to the psychoanalysts to decide. But Hemingway definitely is, in many of his works, fluid in gender, which is very interesting, and we're much more interested in that maybe today than when he was actually writing. So we get to the last page of the story here, and she's really getting aggravated, and there's just this great line. "Would you do something for me now?" she says. "I'd do anything for you." "Oh, come on, buddy." And she says, "Would you please, 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 please stop talking?" Wow. That's good writing. Yeah, that's good writing. He did not say anything, but he looked at the bags against the wall of the station. There were labels on them from all the hotels where they had spent nights. That's kind of an old school 1920s thing. Wherever you spend the night, you put a sticker on your trunk or your bag that you're carrying with you, and it shows where you were, and it's advertising, and "But I don't want you to," he said. "I don't care about anything. I'll scream." She's had it, right? And over the years, I've gone back and forth on what they decide at the end, and I don't really think we know. The last longer paragraph, "He picked up the 2 heavy bags and carried them around the station to the other tracks. He looked up the tracks but could not see the train. Coming back, he walked through the bar room where people were waiting for the train, were drinking. He drank an anise at the bar and looked at the people. They were all waiting reasonably for the train." He doesn't think she's being reasonable. He went out through the bead curtain. She was sitting at the table and smiled. "Do you feel better?" he asked. "I feel fine," she said. "There's nothing wrong with me. I feel fine." I'm a little worried about the fetus with all the alcohol he's pouring down her throat, or she is. But anyway, so I go back and forth. She says, "I'm fine. I feel fine." That she's gonna go ahead and have the baby. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter. That's not what's important. What's important is that this story is about a couple that is at a crossroads in a relationship. With or without a fetus, they probably would be at this crossroads anyway. She wants to settle down. She's tired of traveling and trying new drinks all the time. It's fun for a while, but I guess it wears thin. I don't know. I've never tried it. Maybe I should. And the man in the story, he wants to just kind of keep doing that. He does not want to be tied down, as they say. Now, here's a question for you. We have the man and the woman, the American and the girl in the story. Who does Hemingway portray more sympathetically? Who is more likable to the reader? Anyone? Well, I agree, the woman, right? The man is just aggravating. She's a little annoying also when she says, "Fine, we'll do what you want, because I don't care about me." But he's really the jerk in the story. trying to convince her to do something and that she doesn't want to do. And of course nowadays we might see it more as her choice, her body. That's another topic for another day. But I do think that Hemingway portrays the man, which is interesting because Hemingway is really the man in the story, portrays the man in the story really unsympathetically. He's trying to have it both ways. He wants to get rid of the baby, but also for her to feel fine with the decision. So interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's a great little story. It's a nice gem of a story. It's a good story about symbolism and Hemingway's particular style. So as I said, I've never been really a big fan of Hemingway. I've read many of his novels. When I was a student, my English professors were my age or older compared to you guys. And they sort of went to college at a time when Hemingway was huge in the literary world. So my professors had a lot of Hemingway in their courses. So I read a lot of Hemingway. He's an author I know more about than most authors. PBS, if you do like Hemingway, if you like that tough guy stuff, PBS just had a 6-hour documentary about him, and I'll tell you, 6 hours was probably not enough. He led a wild and interesting international life, a lot of life. But it is great. I always admire authors who come up with a new style, in this very staccato, very minimalist style that he invented, really, which came from him being a journalist, where they have to write very concisely, sometimes just sending telegrams with short information. It is interesting, and many writers today are influenced by Hemingway's writing style. Hemingway is widely critiqued, particularly by feminists, because of his toxic masculinity. However, the gender fluidity, which we see a little bit of in this story, is very interesting in our time period, where that's something that we talk about a lot more, transgender issues and gender being fluid, a spectrum rather than something specific or culturally or socially defined. So I'm glad we worked Hemingway into our class. It probably wouldn't have been a good complete class without a little bit of Hemingway. He's very well known for these little gem short stories, and they're super short, and also for his novels. If you are hooked on Hemingway and you want to read a Hemingway novel this summer, my favorite that I recommend is A Farewell to Arms. It's the second novel that he wrote, A Farewell to Arms, but there's plenty of other books I'd recommend before that one. So there you have it, Hills Like White Elephants, 2 short videos about 1 short story.